A gunman shouts Allah Akbar on a rampage through Copenhagen, targeting a bar mitzvah, killing 2. The root cause, obviously, a criminal gang.
New details emerge about the 22-year-old gang member who killed 2 civilians and injured several police officers in a frightening attack over the weekend.
Yes, you see, he's a gang member. And here we have the latest installment of NIDNI. Nope, it's definitely not Islam. It's that reoccurring game show where a paralyzing case of Islamophobia dictates no linking Islam to terror. Yes, whether it's beheaded Christians or murders at synagogues, there's never a common thread. Well, unless you count climate change, which creates a brutal heat that drives men to murder. If we hadn't been driving all those SUVs, those folks might have lived. So never mind the Allah Akbar shout or the killer targeting a Muhammad-drawing cartoonist. The synagogue, totally random. He thought it was a Best Western. Because for the media and our president, Islam is that scary neighbor who plays music too loud, and we're all too petrified to ask him to turn it down. So instead, the press finds another worry, something called mission creep. Yes, that shift toward long-term military commitment. I mean, you can see ISIS is now a threat in 8 countries. The U.S. says it wants to defeat ISIS. Isn't mission creep inevitable now?
You can see ISIS is now a threat in 8 countries. The U.S. says it wants to defeat ISIS. Isn't mission creep inevitable now?
And so we are a country more worried about our reaction to evil than to evil itself, which leads to one question. Who guards you from the maniacs we cannot name? The answer won't be found on CNN, but maybe at the golf course, his head still buried in the sand trap. All right, KG.
Yeah.
It was a banner weekend for evil. You had the attack in Denmark.
Evil stole the show.
Yeah, and you have a horrible video of 21 Egyptian Coptic Christians being beheaded. Where do we go from here?
How about let's eliminate the word degrade from the lexicon, and let's just go with destroy. Because no matter what anybody says, like Bob to my left, and I do mean to my left, this is not a problem that is going away. They are not getting weaker. In fact, they are gaining ground. Now it's not just the United States problem, and I agree with, Panetta. We've got to step in and do something about it, otherwise it's going to be a problem. You can't continue to try and look for someone else to lead. Take the charge. We certainly now, I think, have enough support from other countries because it's become everyone's problem. So let's unify over this, but let's have, our president do that, starting with him.
Bob, Egypt's Air Force bombed ISIS targets in Libya. That's a good thing, right?
Absolutely.
When does this become, in our view, genocide? When do we look at this the same way we might have looked at Rwanda and get ahead of this?
Well, when it comes to Coptic Christians, it is genocide. Let's not kid ourselves here. This is the first religion in that area. Historically, go back, and now they're murdering them by cutting their heads off. It is genocide, and the worst type of genocide. The most frightening thing that happened was that there is now a communications link they discovered, a cable to Europe from the Middle East. And if one country you don't want to pick on, it will too, really. But Egypt would be one of them, and Saudis would be the other. Egypt has a very strong Air Force, has very good intelligence, and they picked their own country.
Eric, what do you make of this? The fact that the CNN goes and looks at the background of a killer and says, well, he was part of a criminal gang.
Oh, yeah. The Denmark killer. All weekend long, it was, these are local criminals who are easily persuaded to join a fight, but not part of any terror cell. I heard that over and over all weekend long. I mean, that's not unlike what could happen here. That's the part of the problem. If there's no link to another group of people, they could say these are lone wolves, and maybe what they're doing over there is the model for what may happen here. Can I just talk about this ISIS video for a second? Yeah. I've watched all of them. This one, for some reason, particularly stood out to me. To see that many people executed at once, and they're literally, look, I don't recommend you doing it unless you're already saying, how much worse can they get? If you're there, then watch this one, because they do step it up. It's not one person. It's not one person burned. It's not one person or 2 people being beheaded. This is 21 people in a row, and the crying out by these men who are being beheaded is chilling. It's awful, and it really tells you exactly what the ISIS group is about. If you want to really get angry and you want to really just resensitize yourself to what's going on here, just watch it. It's 5 minutes long. It's a well-produced video, but I will tell you, you will come out of that with a renewed hate of ISIS.
You know, the thing is, Dana, the people that were executed were not soldiers. They were laborers.
Yep.
They were just guys.
There's no rules about civilians or soldiers any longer in this fight. Just like I think that there was a time when I told the story before, but I think it's worth repeating. In Syria, the war against civilians has basically blurred the lines because the war is actually here on your phone.
Yeah.
I remember the story of the young man who was told by the checkpoint guard to give him his phone. Didn't want to give his phone. The soldier insists, give him your phone or I'll shoot you. So he hands the phone. He's forced to give over his password. Guy scrolls through his Facebook page, sees something he doesn't like, points to a sniper up on a building, and they shoot him dead in front of his brother. This is the type of psychological warfare that is going to go on and that's why I think that what we call this war and how we define it is going to inform how we decide to fight it for the long run.
Forward, yeah.
This is not going to end by the end of the administration. As much as they might like to be able to say this is going to be over, the ideological warfare will go on for 50 or 60 years. And that is something we are absolutely not prepared to plan for because of what you said earlier, which is, well, this mission creep. Like, they've already creeped on our mission.
Yeah.
So we have to do something about it.
Yeah. These creeps need a mission creep.
Yes.
I want to transition because you make a good point. There's Graham Wood, Kimberly wrote an article in The Atlantic basically asking a pretty question that we've asked many times. How do you fight something that cheers its own near obliteration? They don't mind being murdered because they see that as the next step to nirvana.
That's part of their path.
Yeah. So how does America fight that? Isn't mission creep inevitable?
Well, I mean, I guess I don't think we should even be worried about that. We should be worried about just taking them out completely and destroying them, obliterating them, so no one can even be attracted to, to their video, to any of the type of, jihadist ideology that they spread. Just shut it down completely because they're naive to think they're not going to. Even the Pope gets it, and he's speaking out about it. And it's sad to me that in this day and age, what is it going to take for people to build the strength and the wherewithal to combat and confront them and unify over it? That's the problem. Like, what else is it going to take? How many beheadings? How many people burned alive? How many countries are they going to gain ground in, Bob? You say that they're losing steam. I say they're not. They're marching forward. And look at all the areas that are compromised. Central Asia, too.
What I find amazing is that they are building a coalition for us. This is what ISIS doesn't quite get. They go in and pick up well, they don't care, but what they're doing is adding the opposition, feeding more and more strength to our side of this thing. And I think they're not stupid people, and there's got to be they're evil people. They're not stupid. There's got to be a reason why they're doing this, and for some reason, it's like they want to get Egypt, maybe the Muslim Brotherhood, stirred up. Well, I don't know.
They've moved the fight, though. They've literally said we're not going to keep this within the Arab world anymore. They point to Rome and say we're going to conquer Rome next. And the symbolism of killing these people, symbolism of killing these people on the shores of the Mediterranean Sea with the blood. I mean, you literally see blood rolling in the surf. It says, look, we're after Europe now too. So whatever they're doing, they don't care who they're ticking off. They'll tick off Arabs. They'll tick off Europeans.
Because they're blind by jihad.
They hate the West. They're blind. But it's also recruiting. We just talked last week about 20,000 foreign fighters who've taken up arms in favor of ISIS because of stuff like this. Honestly, I don't even know what you do now. Like last week I mentioned, maybe you do something like, we know Raqqa is their headquarters. It's their administrative headquarters. They have several training areas around there. Just date certain, April 1st, May 1st, whatever date, get out or you're going to be obliterated with the rest of them and just carpet bomb the places and then see what happens. Because whatever this, what they call whack-a-mole airstrikes, it doesn't seem to affect them.
Well, this is what we've been saying from the beginning. We're like, oh, let's just wait and see. We don't want boots on the ground. Let's just hit them with. But it hasn't been sufficient. In fact, it's been woefully insufficient because now they have ground where? Iraq, they have ground in Syria, they have ground in Indonesia. I mean, if you look, the map is quite disconcerting. Take a look at it right there. These are countries with ISIS or affiliate activity, and they're getting help and support from groups like Ansar al-Sharia as well. This is spreading and proliferating. And don't get me wrong, when they see videos like this, it's fodder for depraved sociopaths that want to join up. I don't think the well is going to run dry of recruits.
That map does not include Boko Haram in Nigeria, which has been in was reported this week. Direct communication with ISIS. That also doesn't include the Houthis, which just took over the government in Yemen. And you have Hezbollah, which is increasing its muscle in Lebanon. And so I think that the other thing we have to look at is the underpinnings of all of this. So you have an ideological war, plus you have an Iran that very much wants to be the leader of the region,
nuclear
of the world. And that's where all of this actually comes down to, that debate, which is why I think hopefully when the president comes back and the Congress gets back, it'll be time to get serious about it.
The thing that they need to get serious about here is, we're way past the Islamic terrorists. Why don't you say it that way? Is what are you really going to do? Because that strategy, and I think I said this last week, but apparently I didn't, is that I can't, in good conscience, stick with Obama on this. And I've stuck with him through some fairly rough seas, I'd say. But on this one, I don't get it. I don't see where it's going. And I just think that at some point, who's going to end this, I think? It's probably another terrorist organization. I mean, if you look at one, they say, are these guys going to take over this whole movement? Is this going to be their caliphate? I don't know.
Yeah, but that's one of the schools of thought. People say, well, just let them go and fight each other and battle it out. But that is not a good strategy.
Why?
Because, Bob, that's uncertain.
Look at what happened in
Come forward
Copenhagen.
and beat him. Yeah,
he wasn't a member. It wasn't just a member of a criminal gang. He might be a different type of terrorist. This new psychological profile of a criminal who actually then gets some direction from ISIS in order to carry out the attack in Copenhagen. So then all of a sudden, when you just want to shut down our borders to say, well, let's just let all of them fight it.
Right.
It is in our national interest. What happens over there does matter to us very much.
It does matter. It's like saying let the Bloods and Crips shoot it out in Compton
but that's not,
get rid of each other.
I think I see where you're coming from with this. But to add to this coalition of ours, whatever you want to call it, is nothing but a good thing. I mean, the more time you bring in these people to help on our side, I think I go back to the point, they're the best recruiters, not just for terrorists, but also for people who want with us.
Is this going to be a third world war? Is it going to be, the radical Islam?
We're absolutely already in it. We're already in it.
We are in it. They just won't label it that.
But the problem is we haven't. The coalition is there, but the coalition isn't completely there.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to.
No one wants to call it World War III. It's semantic reluctance.
The more we deny
you can't call this World War III. Good.
Well, no.
This is as big a challenge as communism was, I think.
But in all these cases, World War I, World War II, we had to defeat entirely nations, right? We don't have.
That's the problem. It's the Islamic State. Once you declare it a state, a nation, then maybe you do get a coalition and have everyone.
You do. They're electing their own leaders. They're printing their own currency. They're good to go. Passports.
Where do they get all their pickup trucks?
That's a good question.
From Libya, from Syria.
Oh, okay. I keep saying, you just keep seeing all these new pickup trucks. Let's go to the dealer.
I think the Iraqis gave it to them, too.
All right, we got to move.